Christopher Columbus finally collapses onto the sweet soil in the Bahamas after months on that damn boat and rejoices. He is convinced that he is in India, generously naming the natives Indians. As he would soon discover, this new land was not, in fact, India. No, this was a whole new continent that they didn't even know the existence of. This begs the rather chilling question: where did the Indians come from? This mysterious continent, later named America, was never mentioned in the Bible or in any written records from the ancients. The animals and people living there were unlike anything the Europeans ever saw in their world. Here's the crazy part. America is in the middle of nowhere, wedged between the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. Christopher Columbus and his crew just barely survived the torturous journey, and they were using all the most advanced sailing tech that Europe had to offer. How did the Indians get here? Did they, spawn here or something? There was no way in hell that they floated across the incomprehensibly large ocean on a damn raft. Let's set sail for the Americas, the isolated, brave new world. Alright, so we find our first clue to this mystery around the 18th century. With the great leaps forward in science, humans learned that our environment and the world around us is, and always has been, changing. No, God didn't just YOLO the world in 7 days as a giant sandbox for us humans to kill each other in. Humans and other living organisms evolved around the changing world or, died and went extinct. Even the Earth itself wasn't always like this. Giant continents roamed around, grouping and scattering over millennia. Even physical space, the simplest building block of reality itself, was discovered to expand and shrink. What the fuck? Within just 200 years, our very understanding of the world was completely uprooted. Climate change was no exception. No, God didn't do Pompeii because he was angry at some peasants for not thanking the bus driver. Geologists had their minds blown when they discovered how prevalent climate change actually was. We've been migratory animals living under changing weather. Oh man, we learned that our Earth actually used to be a giant ball of ice until just tens of thousands of years ago. The Ice Age. Giant glaciers expanded and shrunk, causing the sea levels to rise and fall. This is the key to why different human races look different and live so far apart. This is the key to why the Native Americans were able to get to an isolated continent without a raft. Okay, this is getting epic. We're going to have to travel way back in time, over 10,000 years ago, back when mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, goddamn squirrels obsessed with nuts roamed the world. Yeah, the South was warm and pleasant to live in. But some hardcore hunters decided to go way north to the frozen no man's land and start the most epic raid of history. Only the smartest and strongest mad lads would survive and unlock the biggest reward of all time, a whole new continent. No human ever set foot here, and for good reason. This new continent was literally hell frozen over. You'd be surprised to learn that we're technically living in an ice age right now. Calm down, Greta Thunberg. I understand that temperatures are rising and people are literally dying of heat stroke, but hey, we still have unmelted continental glaciers and everfrost. We are, by definition, living in an ice age. To be fair, there are colder times and warmer times within an ice age. A freezing cold glacial period is briefly interrupted by a warm summer before it gets cold again, and so this warm period within an ice age is aptly named an interglacial period. Simple enough, right? The short, not-so-cold periods sandwiched between freeze-my-nuts-off glacial periods are interglacial. Us Homo sapiens made our first appearance 2.6 million years ago in the Pleistocene glacial period, while civilization actually started popping off as the interglacial period started. The equator regions managed to maintain a tropical climate despite being in an ice age. The human ancestors, still monkey-like for the most part, spawned in the East African rainforest until their home turned into a savanna climate. A savanna climate means hot and no trees, so they really had no choice but to stop swinging in the trees, drop down to the ground, and sadly evolve into Homo sapiens. The Homo sapiens hunted their prey across the Suez Isthmus, expanding all the way to Eurasia and into the homes of the other humans, the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals didn't appreciate this different species squatting on their turf. We did a whole video on what happened to the Neanderthals, so check it out after this one. TLDR, we emerged victorious from the ultimate game of survival, and by the time the most recent cold, harsh glacial period reached its climax, we were the only humans left on Earth. Homo sapiens were resourceful experts at survival and roamed the Earth, spreading to places no man has ever dared to venture. Siberia, a terrifying icy hell reserved only for the most egregious exiles today, was significantly worse back then. However, our ancestors didn't give a shit. When the fickle climate changed again and blessed Earth with a brief respite of unfrozen land, mammals like woolly mammoths, wild horses, reindeer, and Arctic foxes migrated north. Our ancestors, the ever-terrifying, tenacious hunters, grimly followed them into the minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit no man's land. Around 35,000 years ago, humans breached the deepest part of Siberia, the Lake Baikal. Around 17,000 years ago, as the Earth rapidly warmed up for its interglacial period, humans were able to adventure beyond even the Lake Baikal. Humans were about to enter the American continent, but their troubles were really far from over. In the 18th century, the Russian emperor commanded explorer Vitus Bering to go to the northeastern end of Siberia and see if there's a demogorgon or something living there. He discovered a curious-looking strait that connected the Arctic and Pacific Oceans, stretching between Eurasia and the Americas. Bering named this strait the Bering Strait, and the Russian fur merchants crossed this treacherous terrain over to discover the northwest end of Alaska. Alright, so let's jump back to the Ice Age 15,000 years ago. The Earth was a significantly colder place back then, which meant that a lot more water was frozen up in glaciers. Sea levels were way lower, so you wouldn't even recognize a world map back then. The shallower waters we see today used to be vast plains, because they had no water in it. People could literally walk across continents like crossing a street. The Bering Strait used to be dry land as well. 100,000 years ago, you would see enormous plains stretching out to the horizon without even a hint of an ocean. The lowlands connected the northeastern Siberia and Alaska, being a vast tundra region with gorgeous rivers flowing here and there. By the way, a tundra region is like the converse of a savanna region, so it's like really cold but still has no trees. It's completely submerged now, but geologists call this ancient region the Beringia. During this interglacial period, the best and most daring humans the entire Homo sapiens species had to offer started to flock to the northeast to push past this frontier. These mad lads crossed over the Lena River and the, however the fuck that's pronounced, mountains to finally breach Beringia. Yeah, Beringia was above water, but it was still a harsh no man's land, unable to sustain trees or grass. The guys that got as far as Beringia were hardcore hunters to the core. They hunted the monstrous Ice Age mammals and ate meat for food, using the leftover bones to create needles, weapons, and shelter. The skin, of course, wasn't wasted and was used in their clothes and shelter. They ventured into the ice-cold ocean to catch fatty fish or hunt the gigantic seals. Really cute, but also a very good source of protein. That being said, the big chungus mammals spawning infrequently in the loot-scarce tundra region were rare boss raids, which meant that our ancestors weren't able to support a high population density. Therefore, they would move along the coast whenever the seasons would change, breed and multiply, then find new land to live in when the carrying capacity was reached. For a few thousand years, humanity would slowly spread across Beringia like a cancer. Just 13,000 years ago, humans completely crossed over and started living in the Alaska regions. Okay, so they got to America. Well, technically yes, but they just managed to get to Alaska. Alaska is the final frontier, even for us big-brain 21st century humans, so you can imagine how difficult life in Alaska was back then. Our primitive ancestors found themselves running into a dead end, trapped in the forests between the Alaska Range and the Brooks Range. Titanic glaciers thousands of yards wide extended from Greenland and the Pacific, covering the entirety of North America. Alaska, as it turns out, was essentially completely cut off from the Americas. They were trapped! How did our ancestors get to the mainland? Alright, so the first humans that made it to the Americas were big chungus hunters, right? Global warming started to overturn the world 12,000 years ago, and even Alaska started to show a more diversified ecosystem. The humans there did continue hunting, yes, but it's a hell of a lot easier to pick up plants and shells than trying to raid a fucking mammoth thrashing about for its life. Global warming didn't just change the ecosystem, it actually changed geography. The titanic North American glaciers that were cutting off Alaska retreated back to the North Pole and the Highlands, splitting up into the Alaska Range's Cordilleran ice sheet and the northern Canada's Laurentide ice sheet. The melted ice, as I'm sure you've heard all too much, caused a catastrophic rise in sea levels. 10,000 years ago, Beringia was submerged and looked like it does today. The people who crossed over to Alaska from Siberia? Well, they were completely trapped in America now with no way whatsoever to go back to their relatives. That being said, the retreating ice sheets did unlock a new path going south into a whole new fresh world. Compared to their noob days, desperately scavenging around from tropical Africa to Eurasia, the humans that managed to get to North America were maxed out, full-build Twitch streamers. As the temperatures steadily rose, food became abundant, and this truly was a beautiful, uncontaminated world. Some humans carefully followed the lakes in the wake of the glaciers, devouring everything from mammoths to rabbits on their way down, as well as the low-hanging fruit of, well, actual low-hanging fruit like berries. Within just 1,000 years, humans spread all over North America and even all the way to the northern Chile and the Magellan Strait. These are the ancestors of all Native Americans. Meanwhile, the Earth as a whole became a lot drier as the ice sheets shrunk and the cold fresh water got dumped to the oceans. This changed the world forever. The wild plants were dying off because of the droughts, and that meant that the big chungus mammals were rapidly going extinct. Humans all over the world were forced to adapt to climate change or die. In America, well, the last of the hunter-gatherers went full send and completely eliminated the few remaining mammoths, giant bison, giant sloths, and even the giant rhino. We found remnants of the first people using precise stoneworks in America corresponding to this period of a time named the Clovis culture. While I'm sure that these giant mammals would have gone extinct anyway because of climate change, the Clovis culture last hit them and flushed them down the toilet of history. Humans inevitably spread from the northeastern end of Siberia all the way to the tip of America, the Magellan Strait. The Native Americans successfully made this brave new world their home until, the Europeans came in and gave them the plague. The now warmer and drier Earth had its continents and islands separated from each other with the rising sea levels, and farming began in earnest all around the world. Humans finally hung up their hunter-gatherer coat and settled down as sedentary farmers. Admittedly, quite a bit after Eurasia, farming began in the Americas around 6,000 years ago and saw the emergence of highly concentrated populations from 1000 BC. The future generations had no idea whatsoever that there was a whole new continent awaiting them across the vast oceans for thousands of years. To be fair, there were some Vikings that discovered America from Greenland, the complete opposite side of Alaska. However, this completely backfired because they carelessly murdered some Native Americans upon arrival, which didn't exactly set a fantastic precedent. Vikings were evicted within just 10 years, and the world would have to wait a few hundred years for significant advances in sailing and navigation technology before Christopher Columbus finally reunited the old world and the new.